So here is an analysis of the Gavotta, which is the sixth movement in the suite. It's a theme and variations structure. So we have the Gavotta, which is Italian for gavotte. Gavotte is a binary dance. And then we have two variations, variation 1 and variation 2. He scored the Gavotta for wind, solo wind instruments, and he adds the trumpet and trombone just for thickening out the texture at various times. So this was originally a keyboard gavotte. So you can see the right hand of the keyboard was this oboe part and the left hand is this second bassoon part. Now when he's put it on the bassoon, the left hand is got some very awkward leaps, and I'm sure he's exaggerating those. I'm sure they're not the original ones. And he's also got the first bassoon incredibly high in its register, so this is very difficult to play, virtuosic bassoon part. The texture at the beginning is 4-part texture. Each line has an individual part. So first thing to notice is that the instrumentation is quite strange. You would never get this in the Baroque period, this combination. And then the next thing that's strange is the use of dissonance. So here you've got fourths, which in the Baroque were considered dissonances, and they needed to be prepared and resolved correctly, and these are not. And then here you've got loads of dissonances in this bar, spicy dissonance. C against B, F sharp against E, G sharp against A, D against A, another fourth, etc. So the A section ends in the dominant key, A major, and is repeated just like a binary dance should be. Then in the B section we pass through a series of related keys, and there's some other interesting effects. So the first is this sighing appoggiatura effect in the horn part, marked dolcissimo and tenuto. Ed, 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 and it just keeps repeating that same ed underneath the tune. And then you've got the oboe takes over the tune, dolce. And then here the bassoon is asked to play glissandi, which is very strange, and also very sweetly, dolcissimo. Do, do. So this is a comical effect, this glissando here. And then the horn has a dissonant F sharp pedal that it continuously repeats, the tenuto marking. More clashes here between these notes. D and E, E and D, E and D, G sharp and C, another tritone. Okay, so next page. The top of this page is the strange texture section. So it's homorhythmic, and also all the parts are moving in the same direction, which sounds very strange, and they're doubling in thirds and octaves, and it's very non-correct for the Baroque period. If you'll remember, I always tell you to write your Bach chorales in contrary motion, not parallel motion. And then he adds the trumpet and trombone here, just thickening the texture, and more parallel motion, homorhythmic, there and there. 3 different keys. This is another Baroque sequential melody. So we start in F sharp minor, E minor, D major. These are little turn figures here, Baroque ornamentation. And then the horn takes over the melody. Plays this long tonic pedal, and it's extremely high and virtuosic for the horn. And this tonic pedal undermines the cadence because it's really a chord 5, this bar. Also undermined by the bassoon part, who's playing chord 1. So it should be a 5-1, but it sounds very odd. And then the wrong kind of written out trill at the end is another sort of 20th century idea. Awkward leaps for the bassoon. Dolcissimo accompagnando, sweetly accompanying. And then we get the first variation, which is in 6/8, which is a bit like a jig. Bass line in the horn, and the right hand of the piano, or the harpsichord, in the oboe. And then Stravinsky adds a lot of inner sort of counter melodic parts. This horn line here, this counter melody added by Stravinsky. That's the A section, and then the B section has this strange harmony here. So to explain this harmony, basically the tune is outlining a chord, a D chord. These are all D chords except for this one, and that's a G chord in the melody. But the accompaniment refuses to budge from the D chord. It keeps repeating it, so there it clashes. And that happens again with the sequential repetition in a new key. So now we have an E chord, and then this is chord 4A, chord E, 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 and meanwhile the accompaniment keeps going on the E chord, creating a nice clash. And then we've got some lovely broken chord inner parts, counter melodies, and some more dissonances. There's F sharp and G, G sharp and C. Okay, and then the next page, another sort of inner pedal, repeated F sharps here on the bassoon, and then attacca at the end of that section means you go straight on at the end of the first variation into the second variation. You don't stop. That's a very 20th, romantic, more classical, late classical and romantic and 20th century idea that you don't stop between movements. The second variation, the note values are halved, so it's much faster. It's virtuosic for the bassoon 1 and for the flute, because it's so fast and so difficult, especially for the bassoon, to play these broken chord figures. This is an Alberti bass accompaniment, which is a very pianistic technique and very strange to ask a bassoon to play like that. Then the ornamentation in this section is very exaggerated and slightly odd for the Baroque period, all these quintuplets. That's the end of the A section. The horn has the melody in the B section. This 11 uplet there is a very strange grouping. More quintuplets have a cross-rhythmic effect with whatever else is going on. 4 against 5 there, and then a 12 uplet. Very exaggerated ornamentation, and then the structure is a bit strange because he overlaps the end of that phrase and the beginning of the next phrase, and then repeats the second section, and more cross rhythms to finish. So sort of Baroque melody with spicy added note harmonies and exaggerated ornamentation and very odd sounding instrumentation.